Yo, what is up guys? It's the Goblin and welcome back to another Fortnite Season 10 tips and tricks video. In tonight's video, we are going to be talking about how to win solo in Season 10, whether it's your first solo win you're looking for or to just continue and stacking those wins throughout the season. If you guys could smack a like on this video, let's go ahead and go for 330 likes. And by the way, you gotta hit a like for what I do to this first player here. Watch this. I'm not able to find a gun and I loot everything, the whole bottom of the house, no gun, and I'm able to win that fight with just a pickaxe. Absolutely crazy. I don't know why that player didn't hear me coming. He was too infatuated with the vending machine to sort of worry about me, so we were able to win that, and then of course chug jug to heal up. So smack the like. Let's go for 330 likes. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and not already subscribed, and let's get right into it and talk about it. Now, Season 10, quite a bit of stuff has changed. We had a significant amount of items being vaulted. Most significant is probably the movement changes here, with them taking away the shadow bombs and the glider redeploy. The glider redeploy was, in my opinion, for public matches, it gave you such a good advantage, especially in that late game, being able to maintain high ground, not worrying about fall damage, and then of course being able to use it as rotations as well. That has been taken out of the game. Slipstream has been vaulted. It's still available in the larger team modes, but of course Slipstream changes as well. The Slipstream that goes around the entire map, basically, or it wasn't the entire map, but that went around extra parts of the map through Fatal, different things like that, is now gone, and they've changed the way that works. So again, less mobility on that section. And then also implementing these brutes, which are absolutely crazy. These machines that you can sort of find. I think there's like 3 of them on the map or something like that. And you can get up to 2 people in them. Now, in a solo game, players usually stay in those brutes. And I'll give you guys some tips on how to counter them, because I see a lot of people getting extremely frustrated with those things, saying they are overpowered and annoying. And they definitely are annoying. There's always something new and annoying in Fortnite whenever they like to implement, you know, new, I guess it's not a vehicle, but it's sort of like a vehicle that you can also use to win fights. So I'll get some tips for that and just talk about in general how to win on this season. So drop a like and let's go. First of all, brutes. I think brutes are probably one of the most important things to talk about because they are brand new and a lot of people are seeming to have trouble with how to handle those. Now, when playing against a brute, it is a 2-man operated vehicle, but we're talking about strictly in solos here. So if we're talking about duos, it's a different thing because there would be one person basically steering and directing it through the middle of the brute, and then another person up in the top in the bubble section or the head section, basically being able to use the weapons, or maybe those are swapped around. Maybe I explained it the wrong way, but there's basically 2 people in it. In a solo game, of course, you can only have 1 player in it. So right here you can see aiming for the bubble is what you want to do. The top section of that brute, and I was able to get all those blue hit markers. You can see I am hitting for significant damage. Now, the thing with these brutes is I think a lot of people don't know how to play against these. They don't know when to take advantage of, you know, to do damage on it, and they don't know where to aim. You want to aim for where the player is. That is 100%. And other tips for brutes is you want to create distance, much like if anyone was playing back when the Thanos game mode was out. It's sort of very similar, the strategies you want to use to play against a brute versus play against the Thanos. And the main thing is creating distance. And you always want to be creating distance between this and building, and creating distance is going to be your advantage, because you are going to be a lot, not more mobile, but more slippery when you are just, you know, a person or a character instead of being inside of the brute. So know where to aim, be able to take out that player, create distance. You don't want to be solely focused by this thing if it's up close to you. You want to be building, you want to get away from this thing. You don't want to be fighting it up close. And then use your ammo is another thing that I say. A lot of times people like to bring these into late game, and late game is usually when you might have 300, 400, who knows, even 999 AR ammo. Use that ammo. If you have a bunch of ammo, don't be afraid to just spray those things down, and especially at a distance. Some people I think are kind of scared to shoot at them because they think that the brute will go and target them and tend to just ignore it, and that is one section you can play. Sometimes it is smart to ignore them. Definitely if they're up close to you and very, very healthy, you might want to just act like you're not there. But if they're at a distance, these things aren't as, you know, as detrimental as some people think. I think it's just you need to be preemptively taking action against it, and that's how you can sort of counter the brutes. So my 3 tips for that: create distance, know where you're aiming at, and use the ammo if you have it, or ignore it in certain situations if it's too hot to handle. Maybe you don't have the correct ammo or supplies to take it out. Next, with redeploy and the shadow bombs being vaulted, this does change the game quite significantly, especially for a player like me, because I would use the redeploy almost all the time. I thought it was a great item, and while I wouldn't always pick it up in the early to mid game, when I made it towards that end game, it was something that I really like to use, and that I would use fairly consistently. So this, number one, changes the game by now you won't have that available. So shooting down players' builds is much more key than before. Before there was always that thought, should I shoot down this player's builds or not? They might have the redeploy, they might just be able to fly away. Nowadays, if you see people being held up by not too much at all, and people are going to do the same to you as well, so be aware on the other end. Don't overbuild up too high. Make sure you're reinforcing your bases, and make sure when you see people in build fights, there are going to be more people shooting at those, including yourselves, including all players, just because of how that changes, and because it's basically a lot of people are going to see that as free kills. So shooting down builds is going to go, I wouldn't say through the roof, but definitely it's going to be a lot higher than it was in a previous season once people adapt and realize, wow, this is, sort of unconsciously or subconsciously realize, oh, these are more and more kills. I think people, when, a lot of times you just assume if a guy was building absolutely crazy, he probably had the redeploy. Now it's not going to be like that. Same with other aspects of, there are still some movement items and some great ways to move around the map, but I think that this makes, the vaulting of these, including the shadows, makes the jump pad much, much more key. And you can see you're in a situation like this. I held on to that jump pad until the last possible second where, look, I literally have no materials, and I'm like, okay, I didn't want to use that jump pad. I kind of wanted to save it for late game to be able to use it to make rotations, because, you always want to hold on to your jump pads as until you actually most significantly need them, especially now. Using a jump pad for aggressive, if you only are carrying one jump pad, to use that jump pad for an aggressive reason can be kind of risky. I use mine for a defensive reason there, which is always smart to, if you feel like you're in trouble, and there I definitely was because I had no materials and the guy behind me, you want to use that to survive. But of course, maintaining and being able to save those can be very, very helpful this season. The next thing that I think is very, very important is not only rotating early, but making sure that you're able to move in with the storm while building and tunneling. I think that we will see this a lot. You see it a lot in arena or professional games, but more in public matches, you see people spread out, and because there's not as many people alive, I mean, look at this game right here. There's 4 people left, including me, and the zone is pretty big. So people are spread out. You don't see this happening as often or as much, but basically being able to move in while building or being able to move in while tunneling is very, very important. Right there, dude, blue shotgun and the pump shotguns are absolutely crazy this season as well. So those are some tips for brutes, for movement. Other things that I think are very, very important to focus on this season, like I said, shooting down players that are going to be shooting down you, so making sure you're reinforcing your builds. The next is going to be boxing up. And there was like a couple months ago, where like people could use, remember when the Deagle was like instant wall takes, and there was that RPG thing where you could shoot the RPG on top of the cone, on top of the pyramid of someone's 1x1 and break into their base. There was a time where like boxing up and playing defensive wasn't that safe. Nowadays, it's sort of done a complete 180, and boxing up, and if and I talk about this so much because it is so true. I was just watching Ninja stream on Mixer a little bit earlier, and whenever a good player gets in trouble, they immediately box up and assess the situation and decide what to do. And that's something that, you always see the players on the outside trying to pickaxe down the build, trying to spray down the build. If you're good at being defensive and buying time and slipping through builds, I think that is something that is such a major key, and it was really strong in last season, and it's still stupid strong in this season as well. Boxing up and learning to play defensive, not just play defensive the whole game, but when the pressure's on you, you'll see the greatest players, Tfue and Ninja, all pro players be doing stuff like this. I think that is very, very important. As far as other things this season that I talked about, of course, this is my first sort of general how to get more solo wins tips and tricks video, so I want to cover stuff that's changed significantly in this game. As far as landing spots, I think those are pretty similar. I'm staying to similar landing spots as last season. Not really too much has changed on the map. There are some changes, but it's nothing absolutely mind-blowing. I think the way the map's going to change is going to be throughout the season. It's going to be consistent map changes like we had happening a couple months ago as well. And the next tip I would say is with shotguns, the flint knock was taken away. So using the flint knock combo, which would be amazing because you have that extra slot if you're not carrying a glide to redeploy, the flint knock is not in the game anymore. But with that extra slot that you free up with not using a glider or not using something else, I definitely think that you'll see a lot more people going in on utility or just sticking with the standard 3 weapons, which is something that before sometimes I would run 2 weapons and then a glider or maybe a sniper or something like that. I like to have the shotgun, which I'm liking the pump right now just because the combat is a 1.5 headshot multiplier. The pump still smacks with the headshot multiplier. So I'm loving the pump for distance. I'm loving the combat up close, or not the combat up close, the attack up close, or the drum. And then the combat I'm sort of using as a, try to get multiple shots in, because you can still surprise surprise people with that, just because they're not as I wouldn't say common, but not as used in this season. And the next thing I say is SMGs, especially when you use a pump shotgun. The silenced SMG is like a god gun this season. Like, so many times, if you're feeling bad or you shoot the shotgun or you're missing the shots, that SMG spray is just absolutely incredible. And using those silenced SMGs, whether it's gray, green, or blue, I've been loving those and keeping those in my third slot and been doing very well this season with those. So thanks for watching. Drop a like. Hopefully these tips will help you guys adjust to season 10 or season X and get your first solo win or get more solo wins. That's about it. Subscribe, drop a like, and be sure to stay tuned for more tips and tricks and more update videos for Fortnite season 10. That's about it, and I'm out. Peace.